It's 5:30, so welcome everybody to the Ottumwa City Council meeting, and I'll call our meeting to order. If everybody would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes,
Councilmember Galloway. Here. Councilmember Hoffman. Councilmember McIntyre.
Here.
Councilmember Cavanagh.
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. The first item is to approve tonight's consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, Chris, take the roll.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh.
Yes.
The next item is to approve tonight's city council agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second. Any further discussion? If not, just take the roll.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre. Councilmember Cavanagh.
Yes.
We won't have a city administrator report tonight because Mr. Rev is on vacation this week due to spring break with his family. So we'll move on to ask who wants to speak on any of tonight's agenda items. We have several people that have turned in slips. Is there anybody else that wants to turn in a slip to talk about any agenda or non-agenda items? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and call you up at the point in the agenda where we're talking about the item that you'd like to talk about. We have no public hearings tonight, and we do have an ordinance, so we'll start with that.
Ordinance number 3243, 2025, amending the municipal code of the city of Ottumwa, Iowa by amending section 3114A entitled Fees and Charges and Costs by repealing and replacing ordinance 3239, 2025. Recommendation passed the second consideration of ordinance number 3243, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
Move the recommendation.
Second. Okay, Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The ordinance sets annual rate increases for the next 9 years. The increases are necessary to continue the sewer separation projects starting July 1, 2025, and each July 1 until 2029. The base fee and usage fee will increase by 6.5%. Starting July 1, 2030, and each July until 2034, the base fee and usage fee will increase by 4.5%. Originally, the SRF loan for phase 3 was to be financed with local option sales tax. A rate increase for additional phases would have been required. However, as loss is the sole source of funds for street and road repairs, and the majority of available funds for streets and sewers, and the majority of available funds for streets and sewers would be used on debt for phase 3, staff recommended financing phase 3 through sewer rates, allowing us to put some money in the streets. This allows staff to plan for significant annual road repairs and maintenance with loss. It should be noted that phase 4 is planned to be paid with sewer reserves, and then 5 and 6 of this division would be paid with additional loans and SRF loans or bonds. And then we move on to another division after that. As part of the rate adjustment, multifamily units and trailer parks will be charged a base fee per unit if those units are served by a single meter and account. The base fee is what is used for the infrastructure needed to provide the services, and each dwelling unit should share the cost of that expense. The user fees is the charge to process the waste stream, and unfortunately, it's also what pays the helps pay the debt as well. So it's necessary to increase the usage fee. The base fee is the same regardless of the size of the household. A 2-person household is charged the same as a 6-person household, but you can assume that a 2-person household would use less water and they're at smaller usage charge. Currently, multifamily units with a single meter are charged a single base rate, shifting the burden of the infrastructure cost upon the single family dwellings. Changing the per dwelling will equalize the burden. I did attach an analysis of the rate increase as a monthly and annual effect on 2 years, on 2 user groups. I define the users as minimum and average. Minimum is a one to two person household with an average monthly use of 3 units, and an average is a 3 to 4 person household with using 6 units. So I will take any questions of council.
Does council have any questions for Cole? We do have two people that want to also speak up.
Explanation of a unit is 1,500 gallons.
No, a unit is 100 cubic feet, which is approximately 750 gallons.
Okay,
So 3 units would be 20 to 100 gallons about.
thank you.
So is it fair to say that inflation is a big part of the cause of this, and then the idea of continuing with street work, and
Well-
inflation on the sewer separation work?
It's not necessarily inflation, it's the fact that Division 3 is estimated to be $16 million. So the rates were insufficient to pay the debt on that. And again, we could have used local option sales tax, but then that would have left very little for street and road repair. So staff was recommending shifting local option sales tax, available local option sales tax to road repair, and then using sewer revenue in order to pay for the Division 3, or Phase 3, Phase 3. It's estimated that Division 4 is gonna be somewhere around 6 million, and I don't know what 5 and 6 are.
Is this one of the bigger units? that
This
16?
is one of the bigger phases.
So to clarify just again, so in addition to, fixing the sewers that we have to in phase 4, we're also looking at putting funding toward other streets that are not being repaired during this.
Correct. Up until now, a lot of the street repair was simply those streets that were being repaired as part of the separation project. What we're looking to do is provide a chance to repair and upgrade streets throughout town that are not just part of the sewer separation.
So really hearing what a lot of the people in Ottumwa are saying is we need to fix our streets too, outside of the sewer separation.
Correct.
That's what would have to be sacrificed if we don't do this increase.
Well, we could still do street repair, but the only other way to finance it is with general obligation bonds, which would increase property tax.
Any other questions from council? Okay, we did have two individuals that would like to come up and speak on this. The first person I'll call up is Mr. Mitch Niner. And go ahead and give your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Mitch Niner, 420 Hackworth Street here in Ottumwa. I guess first, I'd just like to start off like, I guess scolding you like everybody else does. Shame on you for doing this to the taxpayers, I guess. To me, it's kind of crappy to the state's looking to put a cap on utility rates, and you guys want to slip your way through there for an extreme amount of money, actually. I mean, when you add it all up, I just think that's wrong. Has anybody talked to the appropriate people to see if we could relax the sewer separation a little bit because of finance problems? Anybody? You know? Mayor?
I think they have till 2034 to get it done.
That's not what I asked you. Don't avoid the question. I'm asking you, did anybody contact the appropriate people to try to have a conversation to relax the sewer separation? We've done a masterful job of separating to this point.
They're about 2/3 of the way done.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
I think you should do that. You should explore all options before you jab the taxpayers. That's all I'm asking. I'm gonna move to the next one, and I want you to pay really close attention to what I'm telling
Can
you.
I comment on what you
Yes,
just said though? Did you say yes, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, anyways, so since I have been on council and prior to when I was on council, I mean, I know a delegate went out to, Washington DC to have these conversations, and they have been ongoing conversations.
Yeah.
I know when I was in DC, last year, I tried to work with, or to have conversations with VACNUN too, or to even schedule something too. So I know the conversations are happening too.
Okay.
So, not only with a representative, but with other people too. So I know from that's what I know about.
I mean, and thank you. the other part of this is no communication with the Ottumwa Water and Hydro. They're gonna get all the nasty calls. They're our partner, even though they're a separate entity, we gotta work with them on street repairs, they're a partner. I find it very interesting that there was very little conversation with the Ottumwa Water and Hydro. You know, here's the thing. And I'm just speaking for myself. I'm sure they're tired of their water bills. Water is cheap. If you take off all the stuff the city puts on there, water is cheap. I'm just saying, they're tired of the water bills looking like Alliant Energy bills. And I think you should table this item and think about this. Think about what I'm telling you. What would happen? You guys have a plan. What would happen if the Ottumwa Water and Hydro voted to make you do your own billing for sewer? Think about that. Think real hard about that, because that could happen. So be very careful what you do. Thank you.
The Ottumwa Waterworks is already getting a lot of calls because the water rates are gonna be going up in Ottumwa.
I know, and they don't deserve that.
Well, people wanted the hydro dam project to be saved, and it's a 10-year project and a $50 million expense.
What's that got to do with sewer rates?
One.
I'm not talking sewer rates, I'm not talking water rates. They got their own problems. Yes, they do. They have their own issues. That's what they're saying. They have their own issues to deal with, and now you're gonna make it even worse. That's all I'm saying. But I think you better think real hard about what you do. Because think of what kind of disaster that would be. Think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the other individual that'd like to speak on this is Mr. Tony Long.
Name's Tony Long, 14277 120th Street in Ottumwa. I have 18 apartments. I don't think it's right at all if you're gonna give me a $20 fee on all 18. You have houses that have as many bathrooms as my sixplex and my fourplex. They're gonna get charged 20, I'm gonna get charged 120. It's not right. If you charge me per meter, I have no problem. But these fees going up, along with my electric, my water, my sewer, I gotta pass this on to my tenants. You want affordable housing for Ottumwa or not? This is it's crap. There's a house out by me, 7 bathrooms, $20. What about John Deere, all their bathrooms, $20? What about all the motels? $20? This ain't right. You can't have affordable housing in Ottumwa when you charge all these excess fees. This is raising my bills, bare minimum, probably $400 to $500 with the excess water and sewer fees on top of all this. I would recommend per meter, not per door.
Anything else?
Now, I'm about to say more, I'll get in trouble.
I appreciate your comments.
And nobody was even informed before you had your first meeting on this. No landlord, this got slipped out by somebody to let landlords know. It should have informed all of us before you started passing this.
Cole, do you have any other comments you want to make? To clarify anything?
Well, first of all, Mr. Knight had mentioned that we were trying to slip something through before the legislation is passed. This increase was planned and all the way back in November and December when we had presented the CIP. So prior to the legislation being passed, we were already talking about it. All we changed was instead of going 5 years, we changed to 9 years because the legislation did allow grandfather and if you had debt planned and rates changed prior to July 1 of 2025. So this was planned already. It wasn't something to slip in before the legislation was done. Also, he spoke about no contact with water and hydro. I have spoken with Tim Albert on this, and we did have a conversation. Yes, we are aware that they would be receiving a majority of the calls. If there was a way for us, to work with Water and Hydro to have those calls transferred to us, we would certainly take them. If that's a possibility, we will ask them, you know, even if it's just, hey, if you're worried about the sewer part, you need to call, City Hall and give them a direct number or a number to call. If, they're worried about the water part, because, those rates are going up. I believe they went up January 1, they're gonna go up July 1, by a substantial amount. So if they're calling about the water part, Water and Hydro has to, handle that, that call as well.
Is there any way to ease the burden on the landlords that have multiple units?
Well, the ordinance, does not specifically address the per unit. That is, I believe, a policy that's just been there. It is possible that we could delay that portion for, say, until January 1 of 2026 to allow them time to make adjustments with the rents. I know that Mr. Long has a contract with for low-income housing, that he can't change anything in the rent until that contract is up. So it is a possibility that we could, again, put a delay until January 1 of 2026, allow them time to make some adjustments and get their tenants notified.
Can you explain the rationale for why that change is being looked at being made for landlords?
Well, Mr. Long pointed out that, you know, that there's a, you know, there's a household with 8 bathrooms. Well, he has 18 units. Well, he has at least 18 bathrooms, right? So, you know, so how's it fair that 18 bathrooms is getting charged one base fee, which is now more than the 8 bathrooms in that one house? Okay, and again, not all 8 bathrooms may be used in that one house. There may only be 5 or 6 people in that house. We also have a significant number of 1 to 2 person households. When Mr. Long stopped into my office and made some comments earlier, that he talked about the apartments having 1 to 2 occupants. Well, we have 1 to 2 occupants as well, and they're still paying that same 1 base fee. So this is a way to make it a little more equitable for everyone paying that base fee. I understand that, you know, that there are some businesses and industries that have maybe 1 base fee. I'm not exactly sure. I would have to check on that to see if there's a base fee or if there's a different base fee. But they're also possibly paying different things for water, because if they use water for industrial uses, they have to watch what they are discharging, because they could be subject to additional fees for the strength of that wastewater.
Does council have any other questions for Cole? Did anybody else want to speak on this item? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Reed.
I'm sorry. So, I apologize. I want to say one other thing too. So I know that this is not an ideal situation for my pen now too. I apologize. I know this is not an ideal situation for anyone, you know, for our citizens, for us. It's not an ideal situation, but we're also trying to listen to our citizens too, who are saying that they want streets repaired also. And we have to look at ways that we can, you know, continue to fund a $16 million project that we are required to do, even when we are trying to see, are there ways that we can have conversations? Are there ways that we can get like a longer time, you know, things like that too. So we're trying to look at all situations. And so I want people to understand that, it's not just a rash decision. Conversations are happening. I think there was a comment that this was sprung on people. This is our 3rd time actually talking about this, because the first time we had to redo it because there was a mistake in the rates and stuff too. So I would encourage everyone, every time we have a meeting, the Friday before, so we have meetings 1st and 3rd Tuesdays, look at the agenda that's posted to the city website. It's on Facebook. It's posted at City Hall. I would encourage everyone to do that too, to be aware of what is on the agenda. And if you have questions, you know, for staff, they are available. If you have questions for us, our numbers and email addresses are on the websites too, so.
Can I say one more thing? If I'm already paying.
Wait, we have to.
Come on up here so they can hear you in the microphone, please. Mr. Long.
If I'm already paying a water fee and a sewer fee for all my sewer and water that goes down into the sewer, I'm already paying that fee. Why should I be charged extra for each door? I'm already charged for that meter. I'm already charged for the same amount of water or sewer that anybody else is. Why charge me more just because I got 8 doors instead of 1 or 2? I'm already paying for the same amount. It just isn't right. And you're just gonna try driving up my street to my 5th Street apartments, talk about fixing the streets, drive up that street.
Something I've thought of, that I've noticed in my short time being on the council, is that I don't think anybody wants to raise the rate on anything if we can help it. And I've felt that from administration, mayor, staff. One of the problems with delaying or slowing down sewer work is that next year it costs more to do that same work. It really escalates in price, it seems. And so it's important to keep that pace going so we can get it done before prices get even higher. And I don't know of anybody that wants to raise any rates. It's not even fun to do so.
Call.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just remember one more comment. It was also mentioned about talking to the EPA, in another community where I was at under similar consent order. When I left the community, the total cost was estimated at over $100 million. We had contacted the EPA. Basically what they said is you can prove to us in another way that you have met the standard, then we'll look at it. But they don't release the consent order. I don't know if we have looked at doing it in a different way or if we have met the standard of the consent order. That is something that Public Works Director Burkmeyer will have to bring up. But the EPA does not release the consent order. They may allow you to modify and maybe grant you an extension, but you would have to show that you're still making significant progress with that extension, and you would have to prove to them that you're meeting the standard.
Thank you.
I feel for Mr. Long and other apartment people too, especially with trying to have the affordable housing in Ottumwa. So I do wonder if we could look at leaving that until January 1st. That lease fee for landlords until January 1st, and wondering if that would need a new motion or, thank you. Getting your steps in today.
I get plenty of steps in at City Hall too, so I'm not a call on the intercom kind of guy. So what I would recommend is go ahead and pass the ordinance, because the ordinance doesn't specifically address that.
Okay.
Then staff can just take directions from council. If that's what you'd like to do, then we will work to push implementation back until January 1. That will also give us time to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. I know that Mr. Albert is working based upon his database that he has, is working to identify the units, and so that we can get that list, and so they can build it into their billing system. It's not. When I talked to him, it wasn't difficult to get it into the billing system, but there would have to be notifications and everything else. So that would give us time if you want to just give me direction to postpone that until January 1.
I have a question, sir.
Yes.
When you started your conversation earlier, you talked about July 1 as being a date when we could grandfather in certain issues. Are we giving that up?
No, sir. What it is that legislation didn't make it through committee. It was pulled, and the reason I believe why was was because the senator that introduced it, introduced a lot of bills. And the only one that got brought forward out of that group of things was something related to garbage fees. Everything else was died before it even got to the committee. And I believe what it is that this is my belief, this is a conjecture. I believe that members of this caucus said, we can't support this because we'll go home and get crucified. So,
Hey, Cole, I got a comment.
yes, sir.
If we vote on it tonight, like
Yes.
you recommend, how soon can we get back to the landlords of Stony Long to know that January 26th or January
Well,
1st, 26th?
If you direct me tonight, that'll be the case.
Okay.
And I'm sure that the courier and the radio will publicize that.
When would you have something ready for the council to look at, you think?
As far as the policy?
Yeah.
First of all, I have to see where it is and then draw something up.
Much in the next 30 days?
Oh, yeah, certainly. If not April 1st, then April 15th.
So what's the direction that the council wants to take on this?
I would like to see us, extend for the, landlords. Again, I go back to, affordable housing is needed in Ottumwa, so I would like to give that, for the landlords a January 1st.
Is that a motion?
It doesn't need to be.
It doesn't, yeah, just the directive. That's the directive, then that's what.
If it could be the consensus of the council, I think we need.
Do we have a list of those people that we would want to contact?
Yes, we would, like I said, Mr. Albert is going through his list, and so every one of those, apartment buildings or, trailer courts or anything like that, the bills are sent to, the landlord or a business, and so then we would, send notice to them, accordingly.
Tim Albert has offered more than once to let the city do their own billing on whatever gets complaint about on his bill. And the city said, no, we couldn't afford to do that
Correct.
because his efficiency is because he's billing for multiple items on the same bill.
Correct.
And people look at that bill and they don't see what it's for. And so they complain about the price of water. So anyway, Tim is doing all he can to help us. And I
Correct.
think we shouldn't hinder him.
He is, and I'm very thankful for his help on this.
So it sounds like consensus.
I'm gonna wait till you vote before I sit back.
Okay, if there's no, more discussion, Chris will take the roll.
Well, I'd like to make one further comment. In the year of 2002, several of us from the city visited Washington DC with our handout, trying to get money for sewer separation and other issues regarding water.
Correct.
And they crossed our home with $4,000 or $5,000, I don't remember what. And they said, don't come back.
Yeah.
We don't have any more money.
Well,
That might not be true, but
yeah, I will say that on the last division, we did get a $2 million EPA grant. I'm sure that Director Bergmeyer has been looking into that, but the problem is that 2 million doesn't matter what the size of the project is. If it's 6 million or 16 million, the amount you get is 2 million.
that's right.
So,
But it helps.
but it helps, yes.
Anything else before Chris takes the roll?
We are just voting on the second consideration, just so everybody is aware.
Okay, go ahead.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Cavan.
Yes,
Waive the third consideration, pass and adopt ordinance number 3243, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
What was that?
Waiving the third consideration, passing and adopting ordinance 3243, 2025.
Second.
Okay, so do we vote yes on this, that's to waive the third one?
And it's adopting the ordinance. So as soon as it's published, it's in effect,
No more conversation.
except for the conversation for
Regarding
the land funds. Yep, that is correct.
Mr. O'Donnell, do we need to do this waiving this so that we can get that advantage again, so that we don't cut it in truce.
I should have waited until you voted twice.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, we did pass a reimbursement resolution back in November. But what legal counsel last told me is that if we did the second and third readings today, we're still on track to get the SRF loan moving. If we do not pass a third reading, then that delays it 2 weeks. And what it is we then move into April, which would possibly change the interest rate.
So your answer is we need to waive the third reading, is that correct?
What I'm saying is there are ramifications that if you don't, that we could have a change in the interest rate.
Okay, thank you.
So. Now I'm moving.
Okay, this will take the roll.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh.
Yes,
You can sit down.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is departmental recommendations or reports.
Grant from Ottumwa Rec Committee for the Parks and Recreation Department. Recommendation approve the acceptance of a $25,000 reimbursable grant from the Ottumwa Rec Committee for the Parks and Recreation Department.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, Mr. Ratchie, it's all yours.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City of Ottumwa Parks and Recreation Department has been awarded a $25,000 reimbursable grant from the Ottumwa Rec Committee. This grant will be used to purchase new playground equipment for the Ottumwa Park campground. The equipment will be installed by Parks Department employees during August and September of 2025. The City of Ottumwa will purchase the equipment first and then be reimbursed for the total cost by the Rec Committee when the project is finished. This grant application was approved by the Ottumwa Parks Advisory Board at the meeting on January 14th, 2025. The Ottumwa Parks Department was heavily involved with Rag 2024, as was the City of Ottumwa.
Council have any questions for Jim?
excuse me, yes. Do you have a location for where that equipment will be placed? Because there's a big area in the campground area, but I'm not sure where you're talking about.
The general area that the park board is talking about is directly west or northwest of the old shower house. There's a big open space there between the shower house and the Jimmy Joe Shepherd.
Okay,
Good place.
And the reasoning is so the kids don't have to cross the road to get to the playground.
okay, thank you.
I just want to say, I mean, Gene, I've told you this before, and we told you after, but I mean, you and your Parks Department did a phenomenal job during RAGBRAI, and I mean, RAGBRAI recognized it, the whole community did, so this is well deserved and excited to see it come to fruition.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'd like to thank the 2024 Rec Committee for willing to designate $25,000 to help with the playground equipment in Ottumwa Park. That's awesome.
Agreed.
Any other questions from council? If not, Chris, take the roll.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh.
Yes,
Unity Garden Project for Central Edition Park. Recommendation approve the Unity Garden Project for Central Edition Park as presented by members of the Ottumwa Leadership Academy.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Gene.
Members of the Ottumwa Leadership Academy are proposing to build a unity garden in the west end of Central Edition Park. There will be no cost to the city of Ottumwa for this project. Today we have Megan Logan, Amanda Hall, and Bethany Bowen here from the Ottumwa Leadership Academy to make a presentation. And this project was approved by the Ottumwa Parks Advisory Board at the meeting on March 11th, 2025.
Okay, ladies, if you'd like to come up. It's all yours.
This is remote. No, just tell them about it. Well, she just wants to tell you and we try to do some next one. Okay. Good evening. Thank you all for having us here tonight. My name is Megan Logan, Bethany Bowen, Manuel. We are part of the Planning and Design Committee for the class of 2025 Ottumwa Leadership Academy. Next slide.
So before we jump in, we'll give you a brief overview of what we'll be covering this evening. We'll start with a breakdown of our request, and that is to create the Ottumwa Unity Garden in Central Edition Park. Next, we'll provide some background on how this idea came together. Then we'll discuss the design features and how our class chose this location. We'll go over our timeline and explain how we plan to implement the garden in the most efficient manner possible. Finally, we'll cover some key elements of the garden before we open it up to any questions from you. The purpose of the garden is unity. It's not just a pretty space. It is also a space for connecting, learning, and community pride. The Ottumwa Unity Garden will provide a welcoming space where residents and visitors can gather, learn about various cultures in our community, and enjoy the natural beauty the space will offer. With your support, we can make this vision a reality and create a lasting legacy for Ottumwa. So we'll start with our request. And again, that's to create the 200 square foot garden in Central Edition Park. We worked with the Ottumwa High School art class to get this artist rendering of what our garden will look like. As you can see, there is a central world globe. Surrounding it is carefully selected plants to represent some different cultures in our community. There's walking paths to each side, as well as some carefully placed benches for rest. So our location, when picking the spot for the garden, we wanted a space that would be highly visible and easily accessible. Central Edition Park checked those boxes for us. It's right off the tunnel and bike trail, so passerby can organically see the beauty that the space will offer. Other benefits of the space will include ample room for growth for the future and natural sun exposure, which will help maintain a thriving and low maintenance garden. And then the next slide is just more pictures of the location. Again, that's in Central Edition Park. And we found this quote that we thought was really great to go along with our project. It is from Elizabeth Lawrence, and it says, "There is a garden in every childhood, the enchanted place where colors are brighter, the air softer, and the morning more fragrant than ever again."
So a little bit of background on how we got here, what the Leadership Academy is about, our roles as the plan and design. So if you guys don't know what Ottumwa Leadership Academy is, it's a group of individuals who desire to sharpen their leadership skills and gain greater understanding of Ottumwa and Wapello County's economy and community networks. Our class is 23, 26 people. We were split into 4 different groups that included community input, the culture of connections, local information and research, partnership and development, and planning and design. So as a planning and design team, it was our responsibility to find where we'd want to do this, talk about what kind of signage we'd want, the construction, making a budget for it, and then to get your guys' approval to be able to move forward with this project. So what's all included in our garden? So we had to start with the site selection. Originally, we were given locations such as Bowling Green Golf Park and the beach. There's a couple other parks, but we chose the Central Edition Park because it was so close to the trails, highly visible when we were out measuring prior to, whenever we first started. We had our other team member stand down there and act like a globe. Megan went up to the highway and holy cow, you can see it. So we'll talk about how big the globe will be and stuff to give you a little bit more.
You have a picture of her?
I took a picture from the highway, but you did not get a picture of me on the highway.
Oh. So this is our globe. The high school welding at Ottumwa has started it. We got them the metal. We have it, the globe will be about 4 foot in diameter. So pretty big globe. Planning on it to stand on a pedestal that's 4 foot out of the ground. Go 4 foot in the ground so we avoid the frost and damage to that. It'll be anchored securely to prevent anybody walking off with it. Plan on having signage on it, don't climb, be nice to our stuff. we talked with the Parks Department a little bit about how to prevent the graffiti and stuff, or how to get it off easier if that were to happen. The nice thing about that location is, I know they're not monitored all the time, but there is a city camera right there. So, you know, if something does happen, hopefully we can hold whoever did it accountable. So around the globe will be plants. We picked these 6 plants because they're so. We can switch to the next one. Why? Those 6 plants will attract butterflies and bees. They're all native to Wapello County. They're not invasive. They'll grow in our climate. We're zone 5. They'll come back every year. Sounds like from talking with the plant experts, not me, I'm not a green thumber, so, sounds like after they come in the first year, they're pretty low maintenance. So and they'll spread and seed and bloom more, I guess, we have more, fill in our area. All of the plants do, though, come from somewhere else in the world, just like everything else, you know. Somewhere it brought here, so it should be able to cover most of our cultures that we have in our area. So how are we gonna get all this together, right? So our funding is, our partnerships and development team has been actively working with local businesses and agency to seek funding for the garden. And then our expectation is that there'll be 0 cost of construction for the park sport in the city of Ottumwa. We plan on funding it all.
Okay, sustainability. So how are we gonna keep this garden, and keep it, lovely, for years to come? So Community Input and Cultural Connections Group is taking the lead on developing a plan to sustain the garden. The expectation is that the Parks Department will have minimal involvement with maintaining the Ottumwa Unity Garden. They are looking at different groups throughout Ottumwa that would like to invest their time in maintaining the garden for years to come.
And these plants are all perennials that'll come up every year, correct?
Correct, and they're all self-seeding, so they will
Stand.
correct. Timelines, general timeline of our goals. Next slide. So as you can see, this is March through June in a 4-week schedule. So March, was a lot of planning and obtaining funding. Last week we received Parks Board approval. This week we're here with you, in hopes to get your approval through the city council. Next week we will continue doing a lot of planning, and obtaining funding for the garden. And then in April is a lot of, any permits that we need, to start the construction, continue getting funding, and preparing the garden for installation of concrete and other items that we need. May, is our month of building, and creating the garden, doing concrete work, plant paver installation that will have bench installation, our signs, globe, and other art pieces. In June, coincidentally, also in the time frame for us to graduate from OLA, we also hope to have our garden done at the beginning of June, where we can have a celebration and a ribbon cutting, and then the rest of the month, the garden will be open for the public to enjoy. So some to-do lists, that we made were to get park board and city council approval. And then we also need to continue to obtain additional funding for our budget. Proposal. So what elements of Ottumwa's unique garden? So here is our overall, proposal. So, we plan to have this completed by May 19th of 2025 with a contingency plan of June 4th due to the elements of Ottumwa or Wapello County, weather and all the other things that, nature has for us. So cultural elements that will be present in our garden are pavers representing Ottumwa's cultures. So on those pavers that surround the garden, we have different cultural groups and groups of Ottumwa that we are going to ask paint a mural of some sort on that paver, and we will seal it so it will be present around the border of the garden, so everybody can see that. We hope to have a mural that shows all the different cultures in Ottumwa and what unifies us. We hope to have metal flowers that represent local plant, or that represent plants that we're not able to have here due to them being invasive or not being able to survive in zone 5 and the elements that are here. Signs, we intend to have donor acknowledgement and informational signs about those flowers that are there, where they come from, who they represent, so on and so forth. We also intend for this to build the foundation. This is a seed to promote Ottumwa's unity in an impactful setting, and we hope to see this grow through years to come. And it also serves as for future development opportunities. There could be cultural events held here. There could be food truck events. It could expand on a farmer's market that's already held there. And again, like I said earlier, the garden can expand. So in conclusion, imagine a garden that is dedicated to our various cultures, showcasing the plants, designs, and symbols that we're meeting in those traditions. We have a world globe, which has been the primary piece of the garden that we have fixated on. It's an inclusive space, and it's an opportunity for future growth and lasting legacy here and right here in Ottumwa. Let us plant the seeds of understanding, water them with kindness, and grow something truly extraordinary right here in Ottumwa. Our last quote that we have is from Eddie Mukidi, which really resonated with me, is the more you share the seeds, the more you grow. The more the system grows, the more our community grows. And with that, we will take any questions that the council might have or comments.
Council have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do. So first off, I think this is a phenomenal project. So for the art pieces that you have, will you have insurance, and who will carry that insurance? So I asked that because, as a member of our art council, one of our pieces got destroyed, so we had to use insurance to cover that. I guess that is not something that we think about, Councilor Galloway. Also, if you do not have volunteers available, who will maintain the garden?
We will. Class of 2025. Sure. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, they got it right here.
I'd like to eliminate, the city eliminate any fees for permits and that type of thing. You shouldn't be burdened with that, in my opinion.
That would be great. We appreciate it.
Who's gonna actually do the work of putting it all together? I mean, you guys be involved, but heavy lifting of stones or whatever you gotta do there.
So we've made contact with several local contractors, getting bids and stuff. Once we get the approval, we can move forward, see where our funding is. But we plan on using local contractors to do the work. We're just gonna be there with like iced tea. Good job.
Yeah.
We want it to look professional. If I'm telling you, if I laid concrete, it would look like a developer did it, so. Her hands would be in it. Correct.
Well, I really agree. I think it's a phenomenal project, and I really applaud the class of 2025 for coming up with this project. I think it's got a great opportunity to really showcase the Ottumwa. I think you'll get more and more people excited once this gets established, and I think you'll find a lot of people willing to help grow them. So thank you for all your dedication and hard work on this.
And I hope you also look towards possibly looking for a fundraiser program to help with your finances, get people involved.
Councilman Cavanagh, did you want to make any kind of a motion on waiving the permit fees for this project?
Sure, I'll be happy to. I would move that we waive any permit fees or construction fees that are required for this project.
Can we make that motion since it's not on one?
It's not, yeah, it's not.
Can we bring it, yeah, can we bring it to another?
Yeah, we'll bring it to another one.
I thought we could talk about it since it's already on the agenda.
Well, we can talk about it, but it's not, the actual waiving was not on the agenda.
So we'll bring it back to another council meeting.
There shouldn't be any fees. All I have to do is get a construction permit. That's it.
There's always a stumbling block someplace, Mr. O'Donnell. Thank you, sir. We'll get it done right.
Anything else, ladies?
No.
Any other questions from council?
Well, I like the idea.
It's a great project. Okay, if there's no other questions, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh.
Yes.
You have your council approval.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
City of Ottumwa Parks and Recreation Department proposal for tennis lessons. Recommendation approve the proposed fee of $25 per session for tennis lessons during the months of June, July, and August 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Gene.
The City of Ottumwa Parks and Recreation Department has obtained a grant for $1,000 for supplies to begin teaching tennis lessons at the new tennis courts located east of Ottumwa High School. At the meeting on March 11th, 2025, the Ottumwa Parks Advisory Board approved a fee of $25 per session for tennis lessons. There will be 6 lessons in each session. The lessons will be taught during the months of June, July, and August.
Where did the $1,000 grant come from?
I came from the United States Tennis Association. They're encouraging cities to do these type of programs, and that's why they provide the supplies for the tennis lessons.
Council, have any questions for Gene?
Who's teaching the lessons?
Well, that's yet to be determined. We will need to find an instructor. And, once the budget's approved, we can proceed with advertising for an instructor and getting things lined up, and then start taking applications for the lessons.
Good question, Kara. Do you anticipate you'll be able to find someone to give the lessons?
I would think so, even if it's someone on the high school tennis team or a coach, I think we'll find someone.
Any other questions for Gene? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh.
Yes.
Next item is resolution.
Resolution number 41, 2025, approving a loan agreement between the city of Ottumwa, Iowa and Venue Works Incorporated. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 41, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city had received a message from Venue Works identifying an issue with cash flow related to operating costs. There are a number of events on the books, however, without sufficient cash on hand to pay for staff, marketing, and other related costs, these events may not proceed, thereby eliminating the potential for revenue. As a result, Venue Works Inc. has requested a cash injection beyond the annual operating budget. The attached agreement lays out those terms of the objection and future reimbursement of the advanced funds. The funding would initially come from, would be the advance from Fund 125 Westgate 5th and placed in Fund 720 Bridgeview Center. Additionally, if the agreement is approved, Venue Works would also be advanced, advance the $70,000 originally meant for capital towards the operating. These funds are meant to be reimbursed and would be used for capital purchase in the future. So essentially, the way the agreement reads on that $70,000 is they will advance that for operations. At some point, we will reimburse them, at which point they will then put that back into capital. So it's a roundabout way to get to them in the end. The rest of the agreement reflects the contribution of funds to be used as a line of credit, which would be reimbursed from future proceeds at a 1% interest rate. One of the things is that within the current agreement with Venue Works, there is a clause whereby if the operating fund is short, we would need to advance additional monies to Venue Works for those operations. Within the agreement, there is no clause for reimbursement. Venue Works understands our financial situation and wanted to be able to find a way to not overburden the city with these things. So that's why the loan agreement was proposed. It makes some changes to the management fees and the commission fees after July 1, well, before July 1 for the last quarter of this fiscal year, and then after July 1 until all of the funds are repaid. One of the things is if anybody asks where the excess TIFs come from, what it is every year we have to certify the debt that we have for the TIF district. There are a number of development agreements within there, and each of the development agreements specifies a max amount that they could receive in any 1 year. So what we do is we request for the maximum amount, but they're only paid on what they generate. So in the past couple of years, they haven't generated to that maximum amount, so it's built up a surplus. So right now, what will happen is we can transfer that over to 720. The reason why it's allowed is that the BDC is within the Westgate TIF. It is part of economic development, so that would be allowed. We would then certify that. With this resolution, we're certifying the debt. What we would not do is ask for reimbursement on that come November, because we're expecting Vanguard to be able to reimburse us for those funds. And then also, if there's any surplus at the end of whatever the additional surplus is at the end of the year, come November, what we'll do is we'll calculate what our obligations are for the Westgate TIF, and then subtract out that surplus so we can zero out that account, because we don't want to build up a surplus in there. What we want to do is be able to keep that at zero balance.
Does council have any questions for Cole regarding the agreement?
Yeah, I got a couple of comments. I met with Cole 2 or 3 different times, and I met with Administrator Rath 2 or 3 different times, and I don't feel real comfortable with this because of the financial shape they're in. I know when Bridgeview came about, the council at that time approved that anytime Bridgeview was in the rear, that we would bail them out. And after looking over the contract, it feels like we had no skin in the game. We're stuck. And I think that getting to start a habit of loaning people money to help their business grow is a gamble. And if I owned a bank or was a manager at a bank and someone came to me and wanted to borrow that amount of money, and then I would ask, well, what's your business doing? What are you lacking? What are you missing? And then when they told me that they're hurting for money, I'd be really hesitant to loan them the money. And we as the city, even though you explained all that stuff there, we're not in a position to loan anybody money. So I know we're probably stuck to a certain degree, but I'd like to relook at that contract because we have no power in the contract the way it stays now, and that's not a fair fight, for lack of a better word. So I'm not for this.
And so to address the contract, which was approved last year. Yeah.
5-year contract.
It's a 5-year contract, yes. Yeah. And a lot of it that is written in there was necessary in order to get the contract qualified. I think it's a qualified vendor contract or something like that. I can't remember the exact term. But what it does is it sets a way so that if we have to bond for roof improvements or other building improvements for a BBC, under the old contract, there would be difficulty being able to say that the bonds would be sold tax exempt. This contract lays it out in such a way, and again, it relates to the payments to Venue Works and how we all work that, and the operations and everything else, so that what it is if we do have to bond, we can sell them as tax exempt. So that's the reason why the contract is. It's not necessarily a fault of staff having brought forward a contract that kind of puts us in a bind. It's the fact that that contract had to be written in a certain way, and so that we could have that qualified vendor contract.
Which contract are you talking about? The original from June of 24 or this one?
The original from 24, yes.
So I have a few comments too. So I feel like we're in between a rock and a hard place, that if we don't work on this loan, if we don't pass this tonight, we do have to make up the funds through our June contract of 2024. But my concern is, so what happens if we do this loan and then we're back here again, or not, maybe not back here with a loan, but there's still a shortfall? Then we have to take from our general fund also?
That is a question that I can't answer at this point. But if there were not funds somewhere else, then yes, there would have to be funds from the general fund, because that is what is providing the support to BBC currently due to the consolidated general fund levy that was a result of House Bill 718.
But the way I see this, instead of coming to the end of VenUworks fiscal year, which I assume is same as ours.
Correct.
Okay, instead of coming there and being short money and saying, okay, city would tell me you owe that. This is a way for us to put some money out there to get them through, and then they're gonna repay instead of it just being gone.
Correct. My understanding is that without this influx of cash from us, that they would not have sufficient funds in order to continue operations.
And the amount of the money is how much?
The request is for $150,000.
That's a line of credit.
No, yes, it's a line of credit. There was discussion about 200,000, but the final number was 150,000. And
Plus the
this-
70,000 that, in the original contract was, for capital expenses from VenUworks.
And,
So it's actually 210,000, correct?
and the thing is because some of the fees, are reduced, then the compensation is reduced after July 1. VenUworks does have some skin in the game because the management fees go directly to VenUworks. That is not part of the operational cost, or operational revenues. So they do have some skin in the game in that they are reducing their, management fees by 50% each month in order to, pay back the loan.
So really prior to this setup, they had no skin, they didn't really have much skin in the game. The city was carrying it all if there was a shortfall. Whereas this time they're kind of saying, okay, no, we're gonna pay it back. We're gonna work it back to you.
And given my short history, I would say yes. I don't have the details before with the agreement before, the one was signed in 2024. But the one that was signed last year, there would not be a callback on anything that we had.
And I think that actually in the 2024 one, I didn't screenshot that part, but like fiscal management is like 50% of some of the.
Well, yes, there's an evaluation to help determine their compensation on how do I say, food and beverage commissions, right? And through that evaluation, there's different criteria. 50% of that criteria is their fiscal management.
Am I
Well-
correct in saying, Cole, that the city gave them $303,837 this year? It's
Say that again?
We, in fiscal year 2024, we gave them $303,837.
Correct. That is our obligation under the contract for operations.
Well, I'm just letting the
Yeah.
public know that
Correct.
now it's on top of that.
Yes.
They want to,
Yes,
and the fiscal year's not even up till the end of June.
correct. Yes, sir.
I think, the city of Ottumwa has all the skin in the world in this business because we own the building. And I think we have got to help VenUworks produce the product, which they've been pretty good at. And I think we need to put some skin besides. In other words, the city needs to put some risk money in there to make sure that they continue. And when their contract is up, if we don't think they've done a good job, we can search for somebody else to run the business here. But we can't just shut them off today, say, sorry, no more money, or they'll walk.
I think it's important to say that again, we're between a rock and a hard place. Our contract says that we have to pay them. This gets us money and put back. But I do think that there is some accountability on VenUworks too for the funding that is in the financial state that is coming into the Bridgeview Center too. Yes, this is our building, we own it, but we're also paying VenUworks to operate it. So I think that, I understand what you're saying, Councilperson Cavanagh, but I think that there is some, we have to look at both sides too. So yes, we have a contract that says that we have to pay this one way or another. And so now we have an agreement in front of us that it becomes a loan and that we, theoretically should get paid back. Whereas the other way, we're not going to get paid back for, yeah. So, again, a rock and a hard place, but we also have to look at Venue Works too and say, you know, you have accountability too in, how the facility is run too, the operations of the facility. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
We chose to go into contract with them, so we're tied together as partners, for a while here. But we just, the way I see it, okay, I'm coming from the cheap seats here, but I'm just saying, a lot of times I don't know what's going on there. I said, well, man, look at all the cars. What's going on at Bridgeview? Somehow there needs to be a little bit more knowledge of what's happening out there. And that might help this bottom line problem we're looking at.
Sure, and Administrator Rapp and I have had conversations about the programs that are scheduled and some of the marketing of those. And we can continue to have those conversations.
Yeah, because that's part of the contract that, administration has oversight, or can have oversight for that too. So.
Correct.
Any other comments from council? We have two individuals that would like to speak on this topic also. Okay, first of all, I'll call Mr. Niner up.
I'm not.
Mitch Snyder, 420 Hackworth Street here in Ottumwa. Doug is right. Every dollar has a name, or, you know, when we're short money. But you're probably stuck from past experience, because if you don't pay them, they're gonna hold you hostage, because they're gonna say, we're gonna cancel some events. I already know from past experience what's gonna happen. They will hold you hostage if you don't pay. Past experience. The other thing I'd like to say is, was there any RFP sent out to bid on running this thing? There wasn't. You realize that you violated city code. Because I think when I was on council, we passed an ordinance. If it was like over $10,000, you had to get 3 bids. You didn't even do this right. How do you know what kind of deal you could have done? You don't. I'm not tricing Venue Works. I'm just saying, how do you know we couldn't have got a better, sweeter deal? You don't, because you didn't follow city code and send out RFPs. The whole thing is not legal, really. If you think about it, you didn't do the taxpayers justice. You keep handing money, handing money, handing money. You had a chance to finally, when the center plate come to an end, there wasn't, center plate didn't hardly bring anything in here. So any track records you would have sent out to other vendors probably wouldn't have done the taxpayers any justice, because we didn't really know what this event center could do. Now, we know what it can do. You would have had an excellent background to send out RFPs. How do you know we wouldn't have got a sweeter deal? So I just want the general public to know that this whole thing was not done right. It was not done to code. RFPs should have been sent out. And you just robbed the taxpayers because you don't really know. So thank you.
Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was an option to extend.
Look at city code on the board.
Yes, I believe that the original contract that was set to expire, there was an option to renew. Because that option to renew, it does, you know, we had the choice to say, no, give them 90-day notice, terminate, or we can re-up. I believe that from what I recollect, that there was research done on what other companies are out there that do this, and they are slim to none. And so that the quickest and easiest option was just to renew the contract.
That's the way I understood it too. Any other questions? Yeah, I know. Dennis Wilhoit?
Hello, Dennis Wilhoit. Hello, Mayor and Council. Dennis Wilhoit, 334 East Fifth Street. And I'm going to go off notes just 1 second to say it's apparent to me that there's one business person on at the dais this afternoon. Sometimes businesses need cash injections, period. That's the way business operates. And you own this. I think we've clarified that. It's your business. You're giving yourself a loan. I urge you to support the loan to Venue Works, the operators that you've contracted with for Bridgeview Center, recognizing its vital role in Ottumwa's economic landscape. While convention and theater complexes like Bridgeview most often do not generate direct profits, and we have known that since it was built. Their true value lies in the economic activity they stimulate. Events at Bridgeview bring visitors to our hotels, restaurants, and local businesses, creating a ripple effect that strengthens our entire community and our entire economic base. As the leader of the American Gothic Performing Arts Festival, our organization rents the theater space for 4 weeks and a few days each June. Without Bridgeview and the services that it provides, what we can do in town changes significantly. No one else has a theater with a fly space. It was a game changer for what can be done with theater in Ottumwa. This makes a festival like ours possible. Last season alone, our expenditures exceeded $300,000, supporting 9.9 full-time equivalency jobs in our community, adding $221,197 to household income in our community, and generating $11,545 in local government revenue. Almost half of that directly from hotel motel tax. Our hotel bill last year was north of $40,000 for the folks that we brought in, not to mention our visitors. And additionally, our presence contributed $13,582 in state government revenue. These projections come from the Economic Prosperity Calculator of the Americans for the Arts. Additionally, local nonprofits that complain about cost, because it's not cheap to run a center like this, need to reconsider their perspectives. Complaints about expense only add to the negativity that so many of those folks say is holding Ottumwa back, and yet they're part of that echo chamber. Nonprofits like ours, American Gothic Performing Arts, should be among the first to support Bridgeview Center and its mission. This facility is not just a venue, it's an economic driver, a cultural hub, and an essential piece of our city's growth strategy. The city always needs to remember that it has the responsibility to support its infrastructure and its business and economic community. Approving this loan is a step toward ensuring Ottumwa remains a welcoming and dynamic place to live, work, and do business. I encourage you to make this investment in our community's future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis.
I'd like to make a comment for a moment here. I understand where everybody's coming from, and I like the Bridgeview. I come to a lot of different events here. But the only reason I'm not for it is not because I don't want to support Bridgeview, because I do. But the financial shape that the city's in, it's gonna put more of a burden on us in the long haul, because we're already talking about cutting people's jobs, cutting benefits, cutting things that we do around the city, but yet we're gonna turn around and loan money. That's my take. It has nothing to do with Bridgeview itself. If another entity came here and it wasn't Bridgeview, I would feel the same way, because I'm looking out for the citizens of Ottumwa. If a bunch of people get laid off, they're not gonna come to Bridgeview and support it.
I understand what you're saying, Councilperson McIntyre too, but again, I go back to, rock and hard place, if this doesn't pass tonight, we still have to pay the funding. We still have to, that's in our contract, that's the expectation, we own the building, that's, what we have to do. This way, we're looking to get that back, but I understand what you're saying.
And it's frustrating for both sides of the track here, I understand it. So I'm not mad at anybody and upset, and I hope nobody prejudges me on this, but when they say we have to bail them out, then we should be able to have to say, okay, so that means it's gonna be close to $400 and some thousand that they was in the rear, and we still have till June 30th of the end of the fiscal year. That money's gonna come up. I guess and part of my fault, because I agree with the agreement, so I'm gonna take my heat for that, but we have no control even though we own the buildings. That's what it comes down to. And
So the money that was being, the line of credit extended is actually coming from, I mean, it's money that we can't use for salaries or to keep people employed or whatever. It's coming from this TIF, and it can't be transferred really. It's the dues being put back there. I assume that I'm understanding that correctly. And so it's not something that could really be used for some of our budget problems anyway.
No, the TIF could not be moved into, say, the general fund for operations. But because the Bridgeview Center is within the TIF and is classified as economic development, then we can use those funds for that purpose.
And the 30387 that he spoke about earlier, that's our management fee? Or like what we pay them to manage?
No. Our management fee is elsewhere in the agreement, and it's I think that for 2024 it was 6,000.
I just didn't understand what. This was
$111. That is directly to support operations. The way I understand it is that when the Bridgeview Center was proposed, that there was a pecking order of how the operation would be supported. One of those is the support of a civic center property tax levy that we no longer have. So that's one item that's gone. The Bridgeview nonprofit does contribute funds, and in fact, they're advancing more funds this year to help them than they normally do. So there is a support that way, but in the end, there is still additional support that needs to be needed.
And Bridgeview is all about economic development, really. That's why it's here. It's quality of life and bring in, as was stated, bring in, revenues that way.
Correct.
Hotels and restaurants.
I think the important thing, as far as I'm concerned, is that Dennis Wilhoit came here tonight with positive information, things that he had researched about what this business is doing for Ottumwa and Wapello County. And I think his point, above all other things, is if you don't invest in your business, you get nothing for what you put into it. And I think we are putting something into it. I think there's nothing that you can invest in that has no danger. Well, other than getting married, but no. But Dennis did a great job of explaining why we need to pay attention to Venue Works and to the people that operate our business, our building. And I think we just need to take advantage of that, step up and say yes.
Any other comments, questions from council before we vote?
Got a hand back there.
Scott wants to comment.
Scott, did you want to say something?
Treasurer, just a few comments. City staff has shared,
Name and address.
Scott Hallgren, I'm the executive director here at Bridges Center.
From people might not know that.
Gotcha, sorry. As staff has shared too, we have worked hard to find solutions to our challenge, going all the way back to fall of '24. And we don't take it lightly coming before council for additional funds. Currently around the state, about every city is currently having these discussions with their public assembly venues, Dubuque, Davenport, Des Moines, Sioux City, others. This challenge started last fall, and it kind of basically, if anyone ever wants to look at an economic barometer of a community, I would highly recommend they look at their venue. Our business is all driven around consumer confidence and basically the overall economic conditions. When times are tough, people want to hold on to their money. Businesses want to hold on to their money. You know, if you require to have that safety training meeting, you're gonna go grab 50 folding chairs and find a back corner of the warehouse and do it back there and not have any food. You're not gonna run Bridgeview Center. If you're a consumer, you don't want to buy a ticket to a show because you're maybe afraid of a layoff coming up if you know, sadly, if you're a John Deere employee. I mean, it's happened in our community. We've all heard that news. When you look at a combination of the soft economy, particularly in Iowa, a very tough ag economy, farm income is down 27%, lowest level of farm income since 2006. We've had crazy inflation over the past few years, especially within food and beverage. The grant dollars, obviously, that sustained us during the COVID-19 are gone. The COVID pandemic led into basically the Great Resignation. That has created a forever shift in the labor market and the work-life balance, basically causing significant increase in labor costs. Today, we are paying 23% more in personal expenses from just 2 years ago, and that's down one full-time position. And that's just based off the market in order to get the people that we need based off market-driven rates. And then you add in every 4 years, this industry goes through it with a presidential election where we see an offset of business because it's hard to get our marketing message out when you're going up against all the campaign ads and everything else that goes on during the presidential election cycle. And typically, when you look at a 4-year cycle, things tend to slow down after the inauguration day, and it doesn't matter who's in the office. It's just an every 4-year cycle. Typically, after January 20th, you know, the news slows down and all that. This 4-year cycle has been a little bit of an outlier. You know, we've had since January 20th, we've had, you know, the tariff talks and the trade war talks. We've had DOGE. We've had all the federal layoffs. That's all been in the news for the last 60 days. Plus, that impacts consumer confidence. And when all that's out there, that's impacting people. It's making them nervous. They want to hold on to their money, and they're not buying tickets to our shows. We've had a great lineup, but obviously our ticket sales revenues, you know, have taken a hit. I've done some research. I'm happy to share the data. Basically, some key takeaways based off the research from 6 comparable venues that I've contacted is we are one of the most efficient and we're doing more with less. We are the busiest venue with 441 events. That's 441 contracts to prepare, 441 clients to speak with, 441 independent events to plan, prepare, set up, take down, vacuum, everything that goes with that. Out of those 6 venues, we received the lowest in operational support. Waterloo, Iowa, and Vicksburg, Mississippi were the closest to us. Based on annual attendance and number of events, we had the lowest full-time staff ratio to activity level in those venues. Bridgeview Center and Fairfield, our neighbor just right over to the east, are the only 2 venues with no dedicated salesperson on their team. Our rates are competitive. And in some areas actually lower than some other venues and markets that we looked at. All the venues I talked to, all negotiate our rates based on time of year, date availability, current event load, nonprofit organizations, mission-based community events, and priorities established by our respective owners and governing boards. And obviously the big caveat, we acknowledge every community is different and every venue is different. This is what makes our industry very unique. The best we can do is pull data from quality comparable venues, which I certainly try to do. And again, I'm happy to share that research. A couple other just quick comments. VenueWorks always has and always will be a partner in this. It is a building owned by the city. Most of those costs for this cash flow would be used to pay expenses that the city would have no matter who is managing the venue. Payroll costs, honestly, utility costs. I got a letter last fall from Alliant Energy. I've shared this before. It's just stuck in my mind. We're going to face this year alone $26,000 increase based on numbers they prepared and they sent us just for utility bills. So somehow we have to find $26,000 more just to pay the utility bill. And that's only one line item out of our budget. So, the one thing I would like to share, and this is one reason why I've worked for VenueWorks for 21 years. Steve Peters looks at this as a partnership. And this is our culture all the way from the top, from Steve Peters all the way down to, all of our employees out in the field. We are here to work together with this. VenueWorks corporate cut their management fee by 50%. I'm not sure any business out there that would just voluntarily cut their management fee by 50% to basically help the owners. I have a lot of friends in the colleague that I've known over 21 years of being a director. Our other two competitors are owned by private equity groups. They just care about the bottom line dollar. That's all they care about. They're bankers, they're financiers. All they want to do is see what equity's coming back to them and what their dividend payout's going to be. They don't care about Ottumwa, Iowa. We would just be a number. VenueWorks is an employee of the company. I'm part owner. We're here as a partner. We're cutting our fees by 50% to work through this together. I believe the research, like I said, I'll show that. We'll show that we are holding our own and we're doing the very best we can under all the situations. I follow Dr. Ernie Goss out of Creighton University very closely. If you look at all of his numbers, they all back up everything that I found. It's just that it's an overall tough business climate out there right now, and that's why we need a cash infusion. We recently, every 2 years, we're in a cycle of raising our rates. We did that last fall. We did obviously get a little pushback because of the times we're in. We try to keep those rates to a minimum. We also, because of catering prices, raised catering menus. We also got a little pushback on that. We have done some things. We've rolled out a new good deal menu with some lower pricing for our clients. We also have come up with some additional lower cost items on our concession stand to obviously try and meet the needs of our community and respect those needs. All that is formally done and now rolled out on our website. Just today, and I'll close with this, but just today, we are members of the Iowa Restaurant Association and the National Restaurant Association. And a very timely article. Restaurant menu prices this month, March 2025, saw their largest month-over-month increase since March 2023, 2 years ago. This widens the gap with grocery prices, and it's a challenge that anyone in a food and beverage operation is facing, is their ongoing menu prices. Restaurants are bracing for a tariff fallout because it will increase our costs and also has supply chain issues. So we'll certainly be working to navigate that. And a lot of us in the food and beverage industry, and because of all this, the one positive is that basically labor has gotten more productive. Not necessarily, I mean, it's always great to get more productive. We've had to do it, not necessarily by our choice, we just had to do it because of cost. We've been driven to do that. As our labor costs have gone up, as we're trying to hold menu prices down, and still to meet, the margins that we have to meet to sustain our operation, we're trying to do a lot more with less. And so we're working harder, working smarter, and obviously trying to increase our productivity. That's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, we don't take it lightly to come before council. It's a tough situation. But I personally believe, and we are committed, speaking on behalf of VenueWorks, I wear many hats. I have my Ottumwa hat, my Bridging Center hat, and my VenueWorks hat. I have 3 bosses, I report to all of them. But our team here at Bridging Center is committed to this. We love doing what we do for the community. It is all about quality of life and meeting that goal. And I guess finally, I will say, I wish all of you could somehow be with me and hear some of the comments. I have visited with folks out of Burlington. Several out of Burlington have been here. I wish we had a Bridging Center community. Our city would never build this. Marshalltown. I had a team from Marshalltown here about 6 weeks ago. Man, I wish we had this in Marshalltown. Our community will never do this. I'm a Fort Dodger. It's my hometown, and just was there this last weekend for a family funeral. Fort Dodge needs a Bridging Center. I can see it. Fort Dodge will never build a Bridging Center. You look at any of our sister communities, they want what Ottumwa has because this community had the vision 25 years ago to make it happen. We've been open now for 18 years. I think if you look over those 18 years, man, it's been an incredible opportunity and an incredible thing for our Ottumwa community. So from that standpoint, you know, it's a win, but it's a tough deal. Every city out there, every city council out there is facing these challenges.
Does council have any final questions
So
for
Scott, something that, you know, in talking to some people about this issue and stuff and just trying to get their feedback. Everybody that's been to the shows here or different things here, they just talk about how great it was and how professionally done it was and how beautiful the building. Everybody had all sorts of great comments like that, and I appreciate that. They really talked about you and your staff doing a great job with everything that's done here. So that was something that I just passed that on. That was something that came up.
Thank you, Scott. You did a good explanation and you are a good manager. You do well with what you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh?
Yes.
Resolution number 46, 2025, removing a special assessment applied to 204 North Iowa Avenue on resolution number 199, 2024. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 46, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. So resolution 199/2024 included a special assessment for $330 for delinquent mowing fees at 204 North Iowa Avenue. The cost should not have been assessed because the owner previously had paid the fees in cash. And I included a receipt for the payment and attach the folder. This resolution removes that assessment.
Council have any questions for Jake regarding this item?
It's just fixing a little mistake that happened.
Yep, just a little mistake.
Any other comments or questions? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Reed?
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Resolution number 48, 2025, approving a professional services agreement between the city of Ottumwa and Garden and Associates for the Oxbow Lagoon Lane Trail Project and authorizing the mayor to sign the agreement. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 48, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Okay, Gene.
Thank you, Your Honor. The agreement provides for professional services in connection with design of the Oxbow Lagoon Lake Trail. Garden and Associates will perform topographic survey and civil engineering services. Project plan preparation would continue as necessary to satisfy the Iowa Department of Transportation letting process with an anticipated letting date of January 2026. Geotechnical investigation and structural design, electrical design, and construction phase services are not included as part of this agreement. Additional studies that may be required because of federal funding, such as archaeological, environmental, or historical investigations, are also outside the scope of this agreement. Fees will be billed on a time and materials basis with an estimated cost of $60,000.
No turtles anyplace in there, are there?
Could be.
I'm excited to see our trail expand.
Yeah, this is an exciting project that we've been working on for several years. We got a small section finished last year, so now it's time for the big section.
I like the trails as well, but I don't really understand what these people are gonna do for us. I mean, that can we not have any engineers and people who can kind of plan this out? I'm obviously asking a silly question, but if you could enlighten us.
Yeah, that's really a question for Phil Bergmeyer, but he's decided that their services are necessary to prepare this project and before we can put it out for bid. So I trust his judgment.
So it's IDOT requirements that kind of necessitate this.
Yes, that's part of it.
And the 60,000 is coming out of his budget.
Yes. And it's gonna be reimbursed the way I understand by the trails.
Council have any other questions for Gene? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh.
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution number 49, 2025, a resolution of support for American Gothic Performing Arts to begin research efforts to establish an arts and culture strategic plan. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 49, 2025.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Jake.
Thank you, Mayor. At a previous council meeting, American Gothic Performing Arts Executive Artistic Director Dennis Wilhoit spoke about the effort of his organization has taken to begin an arts and culture strategic plan for the city of Ottumwa. Such a plan is an action item identified in the 2040 comprehensive plan. This is a resolution of support for that effort. AGPA has taken on raising the funds, about $9,000 for phase one of this effort. The city is asked to assist by making staff available for stakeholder conversations, providing support for the planning department, providing meeting space for the focus groups, promoting and publicizing the planning and planning materials, and most importantly, by adopting the strategic plan when it's available and committing to act on recommendations that will support the arts and culture in the town.
Okay, does council have any questions for Jake?
Not a really, simple thing here. Mr. Woolhoit mentioned last time, nothing, he's got the 9,000, he's working on that, great, and they secured that. Is there gonna be funding required from the city at some point?
It's not anticipated, no.
Not anticipated.
As I mentioned last time, it was a detail, but phase one might produce what we need, or it may have to go into a phase two to get further into it, but no, there's no anticipation that there's more interest in getting it done than there is asking the city for money.
I think at this time, the things listed there is what they're asking us for support.
Yeah, I just didn't know in the future what might involve.
I would just like to take this opportunity to publicly thank Dennis and American Gothic Performing Arts Council for taking the lead on putting this arts and culture plan together. It is a section of our 2040 comprehensive plan for the city of Ottumwa, which really hasn't had much effort put into that section. So this would really help jumpstart that section, and just want to publicly thank you and the American Gothic Performing Arts for being willing to raise the funds to get this initial phase off the ground. Any other comments or questions for Jake? If not, Chris, take the roll.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Thanks, Jake. The next item on our agenda is our public forum.
Further, during a public hearing or public input period, in order to hold an orderly meeting or hearing, we ask that you step to the podium when you are recognized by the mayor and state your name and address into the microphone. This is an opportunity for the public to address city council on any subject pertaining to council action scheduled for today. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes to allow sufficient time for all those interested in speaking to ensure all other agenda items receive attention in an efficient manner. We now open the public forum portion of the agenda. We invite anyone from the audience who has completed a citizen input request form, residents, property owners, and business owners who wish to address the council on any subject, as with the later public comment period. At this time, we are here as a council to listen. Council cannot deliberate on any items brought to their attention during the open forum. However, they can request that your item be placed on an upcoming agenda or connect you with the appropriate city personnel to assist. As a reminder, city council members and city staff are accessible before or after meetings.
Okay, we had 2 individuals tonight that wanted to speak, so the first person I'll call to the podium is Tom Lazio.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. You might ask, why am I here and what does he want? I'd like to state 2 principles. First of all, I'm here because I'm interested in our city and you asked that we be involved. And secondly, your employees are the most important resource our city has. Now for my comments. I was surprised when I read in the Courier on March 14th, 2025, that Zach Simonson had been fired and there was no reason given in the paper for this action. The council owes the citizens an explanation for this termination. Often it's said that the matter is a personnel matter and confidential. The open meetings law, and you all got a copy of this, indicate that this is not true. It is a public record and a reason must be given. I have since received a copy of that reason, thanks to the Courier FOIA request. Thanks for the request, Chad. But it should have been included in the news article. When I read the article, I was stunned. What did Zach do that resulted in him being fired? Even though the city administrator can hire and fire, he does so with the approval of you, the city council. The council is ultimately responsible for all the final actions taken in our city. Human resources is supposed to help employees prosper and grow in their jobs. However, our HR director has destroyed that possibility. The HR director is not trusted nor supported by a majority of the city employees. The word on the street is that she runs the city and that you'll be fired if you disagree with her or argue with her. Zach shared some of the information. I went straight to the source and asked about why he was fired. He said there were an issue about time records, task assignments, and a confrontation with another staff. It should be noted that the subordinate had violated city policy and was being held accountable. He told me he was firm and professional. He was also put on a personal improvement plan and was recently told he was making progress, and then very shortly thereafter he was fired. This firing has a chilling effect on lowering staff morale, destroying trust, and eliminating open communication. It will set the city backward for some time in terms of employee engagement. Staff is afraid. Who's next? I believe the city council has the duty to demand a full and complete review of the process used to make this decision. This seems to be a pattern of dealing with employees who disagree with HR. By law, you have to give reasons for your actions. This action seems to be similar to one that was taken approximately 2 years ago with another department head. This kind of action will make it difficult to find a replacement in light of the past actions of the city. Who will assume the duties of Zach, and what does this do to our current plans and budgeting and involvement in grants and other projects? It's my personal opinion that Zach has a good case for a wrongful termination. That's his decision if he should decide to do so. Maybe it's time for you to make some administrative personnel changes based on past issues with many of the city. Staff morale is the lowest I've seen in 20 years. I hope you will talk to city employees to learn for yourself. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'll give a copy of that to Chris so she has a record.
Okay, the other person that wanted to speak is Zach Simonson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'm Zach Simonson. I live at 317 East Main in Ottumwa. I didn't prepare what I was going to say tonight. Just came with a couple of objectives. The first thing is that last week's probably the hardest week I've had professionally, but it was also a great week for me because my partner Kristen and I made a decision that sometime soon we're going to get married. And so having that bittersweet moment, it really puts things in perspective. And as much as I want to get up here and I want to be assertive about correcting some misrepresentations that have been made about me, there's some things that are more important. The first is that I really want to say that I have so much gratitude for what I got experienced in this position. I came to Ottumwa. It was my hometown. I came back after school and I was able to start $10 an hour as a seasonal code enforcement inspector. And over that career, I worked my way up to being the director of that department. And we got to accomplish some excellent things. We got to build that hotel out there. We got to work on some housing things that really had been neglected for way too long. Some economic development priorities, some parks and rec things. I'm just so proud of the things that I got to do. But I didn't do them alone. And that's the second thing I just want to say is there's a lot of people I wanted to say thank you to. I wasn't allowed to talk to some people on my way out. And I just want to say that I had the best staff in the world. Especially in building and code enforcement, Jeff Clark, Jeremy Light, Keely Johnson, Kurt Stevens, but especially Jake Rush. Jake trained me at that first job. He was in code enforcement, and all the way through, he has exceptional character. He brings integrity to every interaction he has with anybody, and he's the best leader I've ever met. And I just hope that he gets treated better than I feel like I was. And I also just want to say that the peers that I had, the department heads I got to work with, are excellent subject matter experts. They give you excellent recommendations. And then I just want to thank each of you. I think that you have great judgment. I've gotten to work with you individually on so many things. And I don't feel right now that you're getting adequate counsel from administration, but I think that you will really do the right thing when you trust your instincts, because I know that you do that. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zach. I believe that's all the people that we had that wanted to speak on any non-agenda items tonight. Is there anybody else that wants to speak on any non-agenda items before we keep moving our meeting forward? Okay, the next item before we adjourn is the mayor, city council report, annual communications. This has been brought up once before, but I'll just mention it again. We have had a problem with delivery to sex trafficking in Ottumwa the last couple of years, and so I would really encourage people to go to this film that's going to be shown Sunday evening, March 23rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Ottumwa Community School District's Career Campus Building at 331 East Main Street. It's open to the public. It's called Gridstock, a film about sex trafficking in Iowa. And if you don't know much about trafficking in general, whether it's labor trafficking or sex trafficking, I'd encourage citizens of Ottumwa to go and listen to this film. Unfortunately, we have had some instances of both types of trafficking right here in Ottumwa, and I'm sure it's not going to be the last time we see that. So just wanted to put a shout out for people to feel free to attend that film on March 23rd at 6:30. Does council have any communications or anything they'd like to bring up?
A couple of things. So just a reminder that the trout fishing derby is from 11 to 3 on Saturday. You can show up, but you got to have a fishing license and pay a trout fee. Perfect. Also, if I'm not mistaken, there is a film festival this weekend. Okay, thanks, Mark. And it's Friday and Saturday here at Bridgeview. You can go to GoPip's website or Facebook page to learn more.
Or the box office here.
Or the box office here.
Carrie, you might mention that a 16-year-old accompanied by an adult with a license does not have to apply a license.
As Councilperson Cavanagh just said, a 16-year-old, 16 and under, if you're coming with someone who has a license, you do not have to get your own license.
Anybody have any other comments or anything they'd like to convey to the public?
Okay, real quick, I've discovered a great exercise plan. A lot of bending over, walking, carrying, it's called picking up trash. And this is a perfect time of year. Obviously, the grass hasn't started growing yet and it's visible. You can get out there and get stuff picked up. And it's not just here, it's everywhere, wherever you go, you're gonna see it. And I drove through Pella yesterday, they had trash. We need to be just keeping our place clean and doing what we can, keep things looking good.
And on that note too, on April 4th, Main Street Ottumwa is doing a cleanup day. So the supplies and assignments will be at Main Street Ottumwa, 334 East Main.
And are people allowed to bring things to that cleanup, or they just?
Well, don't bring trash, but yeah. I'm just teasing you.
I wasn't coming anyway, so.
Okay. Mayor, go for it.
I just said, I don't know if everybody knows, but we do have a new Main Street director, Chris Patrick. She used to be the Main Street director in Fort Dodge. And I met her yesterday, actually, at the Ottumwa Area Arts Council meeting. I was very impressed. She seems like she has a lot of good ideas, a lot of good energy. Yeah, she's sitting back there. Raise your hand so everybody knows who you are. We're really glad to have her in Ottumwa. I think she brings a wealth of information and some new ideas that I think will be interesting to see those play out in Ottumwa, and really happy that the Main Street Board of Directors were able to get somebody with your credentials and your experience. So thank you very much.
You can stand up so I can see you too. Thank you.
Anybody have any other final comments before we ask for a motion to adjourn? Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's Ottumwa City Council meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Reed?
yes.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Cavanagh?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for attending our city council meeting tonight. Safe travels home.